In the summer of 1989, 7-year-old twin siblings Emma and Ethan vanished while playing in the backyard of their home. 35 years later, a note found inside a teddy bear discovered in the foundation of their demolished house rewrote the entire case. On the afternoon of Saturday, July 15th, 1989, the Maple Grove neighborhood in Ohio was a quiet residential area. The houses had yards, the trees provided shade, and children could play safely. Sarah Mitchell, a 37-year-old housewife, was watching her twins from her kitchen window. Emma and Ethan were 7 years old, both with blonde hair and blue eyes, copies of each other, though Emma was slightly taller. Emma was swinging on the swing in her pink floral dress, giggling with every sway. Ethan, in his blue Superman t-shirt and denim shorts, was building a sandcastle in the sandbox, his tongue out in concentration, trying to build the perfect tower. The yellow clock on the kitchen wall, an old model inherited from Sarah's mother, showed 3:47. Sarah put down her carrot peeler because the phone was ringing. The caller was her neighbor, Margaret Henderson. She was 62, a widow, active in the church, and the neighborhood's gossip source. "Sarah, darling, could I get the recipe for that wonderful potato salad for tomorrow's church picnic?" She began the conversation. Sarah started giving the recipe while looking out the window. Emma had gotten off the swing and gone to Ethan's side. They were huddled together, looking at something in the sandbox. Ethan had probably found a bug again. He was obsessed with bugs, especially centipedes. Margaret dragged out the conversation, talking about her husband's diabetes, what the doctors said, and the cost of medication. Sarah listened, occasionally saying, "Yes, Margaret, I understand. And that must be so difficult." When the clock showed 3:52, she finally hung up. She wiped her hands on a dish towel and placed sliced apples and peanut butter crackers on a plastic tray from the refrigerator. The children had been outside since the afternoon. They must be hungry. She walked to the back door, grabbed the metal doorknob, and looked outside. The garden was empty. The swing was still swaying slightly, as if someone had just gotten off. Ethan's unfinished sandcastle stood in the sandbox, with a plastic shovel and bucket next to it. Emma's favorite pink teddy bear, which she had named Mrs. Pink and received for her birthday, was sitting alone on the swing. But the children were gone. At first, Sarah didn't panic. "Emma, Ethan," she called out in her normal voice. Maybe they had gone to the side of the house, where there was a large bush they liked to play hide-and-seek in. Maybe they had run to the front yard. Sometimes they went to check on their bicycles. She walked around the yard, looking in every corner. They weren't behind the garage. They weren't behind the big oak tree, the 50-year-old tree her grandfather had planted. They weren't among the bushes they called their secret base. The worry began, and she felt a familiar tightness in her chest. She had felt this before, when Emma had been lost for 5 minutes at the mall when she was 3 years old. The same feeling. "Emma, Ethan, playtime is over. Come inside now." Her voice was louder and more authoritative this time. She looked into the neighbors' yards. The Hendersons' yard on the right was completely empty. Margaret was probably on the phone calling someone else. On the left, old Mr. Turner, a 78-year-old retired police officer, was dozing in his rocking chair on the porch, a newspaper on his lap. Sarah ran to the front door and looked out at the street. Maple Street was quiet. A few cars were parked. There was no one, no sound of children. Her heart rate sped up. It was 3:58. 11 minutes had passed. How could 2 children completely disappear in just 11 minutes? She went back inside, upstairs, and looked in the children's room, thinking maybe they had entered quietly. The room was empty. Both beds were neatly made, and toys were lined up on the shelf. She checked the bathroom, went down to the basement, and searched everywhere. They were nowhere to be found. At 4:15, she called the police. Her voice was trembling now. My children are missing. My twins. They're 7 years old. They were playing in the backyard. Now they're gone. The 911 operator tried to keep her calm, asking standard questions. When they had disappeared, what they were wearing, their physical characteristics. Sarah answered, but her mind was elsewhere. Where could her children be? The first police car arrived at 4:32. A young police officer, Jake Williams, 25 years old and newly graduated. He listened to the situation, took notes, and radioed for backup. By 5 o'clock, there were 3 more police cars. Neighbors had started to gather. The gossip was spreading. David Mitchell arrived home from work at 6:15. He was an assistant manager at the Ohio First National Bank and usually came home at 6:30. But today, there had been traffic. His blood ran cold when he saw the police cars in front of his house. He left his car and ran inside. Sarah was crying, and a police officer was trying to give her water. Detective James Porter introduced himself. He was 48, a 20-year veteran of the police force, and a father of 3. His face wore a tired but determined expression. He explained the situation to David. The children had disappeared between 3:47 and 3:52 during the 5 minutes Sarah was on the phone. The backyard wall was 2 meters high, topped with barbed wire that had been installed the previous month. The only entry and exit points were the front door or the garage door, both of which were locked. Someone must have taken them, David said, his voice cracking. Someone came into our yard and... How, Mr. Mitchell? Porter asked gently, but with an interrogative tone. You'd need a ladder to get over the wall. Your neighbors didn't see or hear anything. The Hendersons' dog Max didn't even bark. He usually barks at everything. The first night was critical. According to statistics, 74% of missing children were found within the first 3 hours, and 91% within the first 24 hours. After that, it became more difficult. Hundreds of volunteers gathered: firefighters, police, neighbors, church members. They began to search the neighborhood in groups. Flashlights pierced the darkness. Emma, Ethan, their voices echoed. Every bush was checked. Under every tree, in every garage, every basement, every shed. Dogs were brought in, a German Shepherd named Rex and a Labrador named Bella, both trained search dogs. They were given Emma's pink dress and Ethan's Superman t-shirt to smell. The dogs circled the yard, went to the swing, headed toward the sandbox, and then stopped. Right next to the sandbox, it was as if the trail had gone cold, as if the children had evaporated. On the second day, Sunday morning, the FBI got involved. In kidnapping cases, federal authority takes over after 24 hours. Special Agent Diana Foster was assigned. She was 42, petite, with sharp eyes, 20 years of FBI experience, and a specialist in child abduction cases. She had 2 daughters, aged 15 and 17. She took every case personally. She sat at the kitchen table with Sarah and David. Ms. Mitchell, Mr. Mitchell, I know this is difficult, but I have to ask some questions. Was there anything that would suggest your children might be abducted? Any threats, strange phone calls, feeling like you were being followed? Any unusual behavior? Sarah shook her head, her eyes swollen from crying. No, nothing. We're a normal family. David works at the bank. I'm at home. We go to church. We're good with our neighbors. We don't have fights with anyone. Foster turned to David. Mr. Mitchell, where exactly were you yesterday afternoon? David's face flushed with anger. Are you accusing me? No, sir. These are routine questions. We ask everyone. We need to confirm your alibi. David took a deep breath. I was at work. We had a loan committee meeting from 2 to 5. Bob Harrison, Janet Mills, Tom Rodriguez, Lisa Chang, Mike Patterson, they were all there. Then I did some paperwork in my office. My secretary Nancy brought me coffee at 5:30. I left at 6. The security cameras must have recorded everything. Everything was checked. The meeting attendees confirmed David was there. The security cameras showed him in his office at 5:45 and in the parking lot at 6:02. His alibi was perfect, but Foster was still suspicious. Statistics didn't lie. 49% of child abduction cases were carried out by a parent, 27% by an acquaintance, and only 24% by strangers. In the third week, a new name emerged: George Kellner. He was 42, single, unemployed, and lived in a small house at the end of the neighborhood. His window overlooked the children's park. A neighbor, Mrs. Helen Morrison, a 55-year-old elementary school teacher and an observant person, gave a statement. George always watched the park. He'd sit on a bench. He'd give candy to the children. I saw him talking to Emma and Ethan, too. Once he stroked Emma's hair. It struck me as odd. George's background was investigated. In 1983, he had been arrested in California for inappropriate touching of an 8-year-old girl. The girl changed her statement, and the case was dropped due to lack of evidence. He moved to Ohio in 1987. A search warrant was issued. George's house was searched thoroughly. Children's toys were found in the basement. Barbie dolls, toy cars, puzzles, but they were all old and dusty. George said they belonged to his late sister's children. I was at home that day, he said, sweating during the interrogation. I was watching a baseball game on TV. The Cincinnati Reds were playing. They won 5-3. I live alone. No one can confirm it, but I didn't do it. I liked those kids, but I would never harm them. He was given a polygraph test. The results were inconclusive. They didn't show him as fully guilty or fully innocent. He was under stress, which was normal. There was no physical evidence. Nothing belonging to Emma or Ethan was found in George's house. He was released but remained under police surveillance. 2 months later, he suddenly moved to Florida. I can't live here anymore, he told his landlord. Everyone looks at me like I'm a killer. In 1994, he died of a heart attack in St. Petersburg. He was 46. Sarah and David's marriage was collapsing. The trauma of the children's disappearance had changed them both. Sarah had become obsessive. She looked out the window day and night. She didn't let anyone into the children's rooms, leaving everything as it was. Emma's bed still had the pink cover on it. Ethan's toy cars were lined up on the floor. David became withdrawn. He would go to work, come home, and sit for hours in his workshop in the basement. They didn't talk. One night, Sarah broke the silence. Did you take them? Her voice was cold. David was shocked. What? Did you have another woman? Did you give the children to her? Did you want a new life? David stood up, his face red. How can you say such a thing? They're my children, too. But you were at work all day. You didn't spend time with them. Maybe they were a burden to you. Sarah, please. No, there's no other explanation. Children don't just disappear. Someone took them, and that someone... She stopped. Tears started to fall. They divorced in 1992. David moved to California. He got a job at a bank in Silicon Valley. He met Linda Chen, a 35-year-old software engineer. They married in 1995. They had no children. Linda couldn't get pregnant. In 2010, David was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He died 6 months later, or so everyone thought. His funeral was held in San Jose. Linda had him cremated. His ashes were scattered in the Pacific. Sarah stayed in Ohio, in the same house. What if they come back, she would say. What if they come home and can't find me? She received therapy. Dr. Rachel Green, an expert psychiatrist, saw Sarah twice a week for 3 years. She was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, and PTSD. She was put on medication. Prozac, Xanax, Ambien. None of it worked. The The pain continued. In 2015, she was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. She was 61, considered young. The disease progressed quickly. In 2018, she was placed in a nursing home. Sunny Acres was a nice place, but Sarah was not happy. She constantly asked, "Where are my children?" The nurses would say, "They're safe." In 2020, during the COVID-19 pandemic, while no one could visit her, she died. Her last words were to a nurse named Anna. "Are my children coming today?" March 2024. The Maple Grove neighborhood was no longer the same. Most of the houses were abandoned. Young families had moved away. The elderly had died. The Mitchell house had been empty for 35 years. Real estate agents tried to sell it, but no one wanted to live in the house of the missing twins. There were rumors. Some said they heard children's voices at night. It was rumored that white figures were seen in the window. Nonsense, of course, but enough to scare away buyers. The municipality finally decided on urban renewal. The entire neighborhood would be demolished and replaced with modern apartments. On the morning of March 15th, the demolition team arrived. Bulldozer operator Tony Ramirez, 38, a 15-year veteran worker, started his job. First, he tore down the roof. The tiles fell to the ground in a cloud of dust. Then the walls. The bricks shattered. He stopped when he reached the foundation. The city inspector had given a special instruction. Mark the location of the old sandbox. Dig there carefully. There might be historical artifacts. Tony lowered the bulldozer slowly. The earth was lifted. After digging 2 meters, he hit something metal. He stopped, got out, and looked. A concrete box, 50 by 50 centimeters, sealed. It was probably an old septic tank from the 1950s, but it looked very clean. He opened the lid with a crowbar. Inside was a pink teddy bear, wrapped in a plastic bag. Tony took the bear out. "Hey, Jim," he called to his coworker. "Look what I found, an old toy." He examined the bear. It was pink, looked soft, a bit faded, but in good condition. He turned it over. The seams were loose, as if someone had opened and re-sewn it. He put his finger inside to check. He felt something plastic. He pulled it out. A folded piece of paper wrapped in a bag came out. "There's a note here." The note was handwritten, half in Spanish, half in English. The ink was faded, but legible. "My name is Maria Elena Gonzalez. In 1989, I was the Mitchell family's cleaner. I worked every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. I got $25. It wasn't great money, but I needed the job. Mrs. Mitchell was a good woman. She was kind. Sometimes she would give me Turkish recipes. Mr. Mitchell didn't talk much. The children were sweet. Emma would ask me for Spanish words. Ethan would show me his drawings. On July 15th, I came early. I hadn't told Mrs. Mitchell. I had a key she had given me a month ago because she trusted me. I entered quietly through the back door. I was going to clean the kitchen. I heard Sarah on the phone. She was talking to her neighbor. I went out to the backyard. It was hot. I went behind the bushes. I thought I would rest a bit. Nobody would see me anyway. I was the invisible woman, the cleaner, the Mexican. Nobody cared. Then I saw him. Mr. Mitchell came. But he was at work, wasn't he? The bank is closed on Saturday afternoon. He was walking strangely. David is right-handed. This man used his left hand to open the door. He called out to the children, "Dad!" They ran. Emma hugged him. Ethan held his hand. The man smiled, but his smile was different. David didn't smile like that. It was a cold smile. "We're going to surprise your mother," he said. "We're going to get ice cream. Be quiet." He put the children in the car. A blue sedan, a Ford. It wasn't David's car. David's car was a gray Honda. They left. I was confused. I waited. 10 minutes. 15 minutes. Sarah came out to the yard. She called for the children. The panic started. I came out from behind the bush. "Mrs. Mitchell," I said. She screamed, "Maria, what are you doing here?" I tried to explain. My English was bad. "To David," I said. "To David. One David took children." She didn't understand. The police came. I told them too. "Same face, different man," I said. They laughed. They said I was in shock, that it was trauma. I asked for a translator. They didn't get one. "Go home," they said. "Rest." The next day, Mrs. Mitchell called. She was angry. "Why were you hiding in my yard? Why didn't you clean? I'm firing you," I tried to explain. "I saw the children," I said. "Twin man took them." "Get out of my house," she shouted. "Don't ever come back." No one believed me. I went back to Mexico, to my family in Guadalajara, but I couldn't forget. 2 Davids, twins, or someone who looked like David. The same face, a different man. The children recognized him. They said, "Dad," but he wasn't their father, I'm sure. I wrote this note. I came back in 1990, secretly. At night, I went into the yard. I found the bear, Emma's bear. I put the note inside. I buried it. Maybe one day it will be found. Maybe someone will believe. Maria Elena Gonzalez, May 16th, 1990. The FBI immediately took the note for examination. The paper and ink were subjected to aging tests. Their production was confirmed to be around 1990. Handwriting analysis was conducted. Maria Elena Gonzalez's immigration records were found. Born in Guadalajara in 1953. Legal immigrant to the U.S. in 1985. She died of cancer in Mexico in 2001. Her daughter Rosa was contacted. Rosa recounted tearfully, "My mother was never the same after that incident. She kept saying dos hombres iguales, 2 identical men. No one believed her. She got depressed. When she died, she was still calling out for those children." David Mitchell's records were thoroughly investigated. Birth records from Columbus Hospital, May 3, 1954. Mother, Patricia Mitchell. Father, Robert Mitchell. Twin birth, David and Daniel. Daniel Mitchell was registered as deceased on May 6, 1954. Cause, respiratory failure. But there was no grave record, no cremation record, no burial permit. Notes from a nurse named Nancy Coleman from the hospital archives. One of the twins is very weak. The doctor says he has no chance of survival. The mother is crying. The father is strange. He said, "Maybe a single child is better." A strange man. Another note. The father doesn't want to see Daniel. "Let's not get attached if he's going to die," he says. The mother objects, but the father is determined. Final note. Daniel Mitchell died this morning, 3:47 a.m. The father didn't take the body. "Let the hospital handle it," he said. Strange. Foster turned to her team. What if Daniel didn't die? What if the father sold him or gave him away? The team expanded the investigation. The name Daniel Mitchell was scanned through Social Security, tax, driver's license, everything. The first lead came from Nevada in 1987. A speeding ticket. Daniel Mitchell, $85. Paid. The signature looked similar to David's but was different. Handwriting expert. Not the same person, but very similar. Could be a twin. Michigan, 1988. Hotel record. Daniel Mitchell. Holiday Inn. One night. Cash payment. 1989, July 14th, the day before. Indiana. Gas station. Security camera. The quality was poor. 1989 technology. But there was an image. A man. He looks like David. 2 children with him. One in a pink dress. The trail continued. July 16th, Kentucky. Credit card. Daniel Mitchell. $47. Gas and food. July 20th, Tennessee. Motel 6. Daniel Mitchell. With 2 children. Registered as Sophia and Marcus Fernandez, the aliases had begun. July 25th, Texas, El Paso, border crossing, Daniel Mitchell, 2 children, entry into Mexico. The trail went cold here. When the Panama Papers were leaked in 2016, one detail caught their attention. David Mitchell, offshore account, opened in 1991, $2 million, Sarah's father's inheritance. But the signature was different. The account was managed from Buenos Aires. The last transaction was in 2019. Interpol was now involved. The Argentine federal police started an investigation. La Recoleta, Buenos Aires, a rich neighborhood. David Mitchell, 70 years old, a retired businessman. Neighbors. He's very kind. He has 2 adopted children, Sophia and Marcus. They're good people. March 28th, 2024, 6 a.m. The Argentine police raided the house. David Mitchell was making coffee. Calmly. "I was expecting you," he said, "for 35 years. The house was searched. Photos were found. Sophia and Marcus Fernandez, adults. A DNA test was ordered. David Mitchell's confession began. Daniel really died when he was 3 days old. But I always talked to him. Not an imaginary friend. Something more. I was living for him. Both of our lives at once. Sarah and I married. We had twins. While I was looking at Emma and Ethan, I constantly thought of Daniel. What if he had twins too? Then the obsession started. Emma and Ethan shouldn't just be my children. They should be Daniel's too. I made a plan. It took years. Fake IDs, passports, accounts. I created Daniel Mitchell. On July 15th, I left work early. The afternoon meeting ended, and I said I was feeling sick. I went home, but not the home Sarah knew. I went to the house I rented. I put on a disguise, a fake mustache. But then I took it off. It was unnecessary. No one could distinguish between David and Daniel anyway. We were twins. I went into the backyard. I didn't see Maria. She was invisible anyway. The children said, "Dad, that's normal." I was their father. We got into the car. "Surprise," I said. We drove off. The first night we stayed in Indiana, the children asked about their mother. "Mom is sick in the hospital," I said. "We're going on a vacation." Ethan cried. Emma was suspicious. She was 7 but smart. "Are you my dad?" she said. "Of course I am," I said. But there was doubt in her eyes. I gave them medicine, a mild sedative. They slept. The next day, we continued our journey. Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas. A new story every day. Mom will come when she gets better. Mom is waiting for us. Mom is at the new house. We crossed the border into Mexico. Things were easier there. Bribery, fake documents. They became Sophia and Marcus Fernandez. We moved to South America. We settled in Argentina. The first year was hell. Emma was constantly crying. "My mom is Sarah. My dad is David," she would say. "You're David, but you're not my dad." I don't know how she knew. Ethan was easier. He was younger, more adaptable. But Emma, she resisted. She tried to run away twice. She yelled in English at the neighbors, but no one understood. I started teaching them Spanish. I forbade them to speak English. If they spoke it, there was a punishment. What punishment? No, I didn't hit them. I just locked them in a dark room. An hour, 2 hours, until they spoke Spanish. The second year was better. They got used to their new names. They started school. Católica San Jose, a private school. Expensive. I paid for it with Sarah's money. The inheritance. $2 million. It was left to Sarah when her father died. I took it. It was my right. I spent it on my children. Emma was now Sophia. Ethan had become Marcus. Their teachers loved them. "They're very sweet twins," they said. "A little shy, but they'll adapt." The third year was almost normal. They now saw me as their father. Not David, but Papa. Their mother? They believed the story that she died in a car accident, or they were made to believe it. A child's brain is adaptive. It forgets trauma. It creates a new reality. When Emma Sophia turned 10, she spoke perfect Spanish. Ethan and Marcus played soccer. They had become Argentinian. I followed what was happening in Ohio. On the internet, I saw Sarah's breakdown, the divorce, David's move to California. But I was David. Who was the one in California? Robert Mitchell, a distant cousin. I paid him. I told him to play the role. He died in 2010. Cancer. It was real. But everyone thought David had died. Remorse. Every night, I thought of Sarah. I cried. But I couldn't go back. I would lose the children. I'd go to jail. I took good care of them. I loved them. I raised them. Sophia became a teacher. Marcus became an architect. They got married. They're happy. I was happy too, until that note was found. The DNA results came in. Sophia and Marcus were indeed Emma and Ethan. 99.9% match. The Argentine police found them. They were living in Cordoba. Sophia was teaching Spanish in an elementary school and had 2 children. Marcus was working in an architectural firm, and his wife was pregnant. Their first reaction was shock. Our father is David Fernandez. Our mother is Maria Fernandez. Car accident. The police showed them the DNA denial. There must be a mistake. We're Argentinian. We were born and raised here. Hypnotherapy was suggested. Sophia accepted. Dr. Carmen Rodriguez, an expert. Deep hypnosis. Sophia began to speak. Pink dress, swing, mom in the kitchen, phone, Ethan in the sand. Dad came, but not him. Different. Car, sleep, awake, somewhere else. Mom is gone. Crying. Dark room, Spanish. Sophia. I'm Emma. No Sophia. Who is Emma? I don't know. Marcus refused the treatment. I am Marcus Fernandez. I am no one else. This is my life. I have a family. I have a job. I am Argentinian. But he couldn't sleep at night. The dreams began. English dreams. Sarah's voice. Ethan, come for dinner. He woke up sweating. They came to America. It was mandatory. FBI interrogation. A visit to Sarah's grave. Sunny Acres Cemetery. The tombstone. Sarah Mitchell, 1952 to 2020. A loving mother, always waiting. Sophia knelt. She cried. Real tears for the first time. Marcus stood far away. His face was expressionless. A storm was raging inside him. They went to Ohio. The old house had been demolished. In its place, a park of the lost children was being built. The mayor spoke, in memory of Emma and Ethan Mitchell, and for all missing children. Sophia walked in the park. There was a swing, new, but in the same place. She sat down. She swung. For a moment, just for a moment, she was Emma again. Then she returned to Sophia. The teddy bear was placed in the FBI museum. Next to it, a photo of Maria Gonzalez. The inscription read, Invisible Hero. Rosa Gonzalez received the medal. My mother was right, she said. There were 2 men. No one believed her, but she was right. David Mitchell was tried in Argentina. 25 years in prison. He was 70. He will die in prison. His defense, I gave my children a good life, an education, love, security. I took better care of them than Sarah. The judge, but you took away their right to choose. You stole their identities. David, what is an identity anyway? I lived Daniel's identity too. They lived a new identity. Everyone is just playing a role. Sophia Emma stayed in America. She received therapy, an identity crisis, 2 languages, 2 cultures, 2 lives. She told her children, I am both Emma and Sophia. Your mother. I was born twice. I grew up twice. Her daughter was 8, her son 6. They didn't understand. Maybe they will when they're older. Marcus and Ethan returned to Argentina. I am Marcus. Ethan died in 1989. Maybe I'm his reincarnation, but I live as Marcus. His wife, Maria, was pregnant. The child will be named Ethan, he said. Maybe this will break the cycle. In prison, David kept a diary. April 15th, 2024. Am I sorry? No, and yes. I gave my children a good life. Education, love, security. But I destroyed Sarah. I loved 2 women. Sarah was real. Linda was a lie. But which one was happy? April 20th, 2024. Emma came to visit. As Sophia. I don't forgive you, she said. But I understand. You were sick? Am I sick? I still talk to Daniel. He says I was right. I say I was wrong. April 25th, 2024. Ethan didn't come. Marcus won't come. He rejected me. He's right. I would have rejected my father too. But he's my son. In both of his identities. May 1st, 2024, I think of Maria Gonzalez, the invisible woman. She saw me. She saw the truth. No one believed her. We waited 35 years. The note saved everyone. Or ruined them. Which is it? May 5th, 2024. I had a dream. Sarah, Emma, Ethan, me, in the backyard, 1989, but different. Daniel is there too, alive. The twins are playing. The 4 of us. Sarah's laughing. A happy ending. I woke up. A cell. Reality. This is reality. May 10th, 2024. The trial is tomorrow, my final defense. What will I say? I'm sorry. A lie. I regret it. Partially. Would I do it again? I don't know. Maybe. My children were happy. They lived happy for 30 years. Sarah suffered for 30 years. Is the equation fair? May 15th, 2024. 25 years. The verdict. Fair. I'll get out if I live to 95. I won't. The cancer has already started. Pancreatic. Ironic. I will die like David. But I am David. Which one? May 20th, 2024. Last entry. Emma/Sophia wrote me a letter. I told my children that you are their real grandfather. A complex story, but it's true. They're American Argentinian. 2 identities, like me, because of you. But they exist. I can't thank you. But they exist. The game is over. Maria was right. There were 2 Davids. One died in 2010. One will die soon. Daniel never lived, or he lived inside all of us. Emma lives, Sophia lives, in the same body. Ethan lives, Marcus lives, in the same mind. The teddy bear, the pink bear. It changed everything. It waited for 35 years in the ground. It hid the truth. Then it spoke, with a plastic tongue. Justice was delayed, but it came. Final. Case closed. Case number 89-7823. Emma and Ethan Mitchell. Found. Alive. David Mitchell. Judged. Imprisoned. Maria Gonzalez. Hero. Posthumously the teddy bear. In the FBI Museum, an eternal witness.